Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at Bremen again, as I needed to play this ship with Lutjens. I did not get to use the Luchins buff, 7.5% better DPM on 140 main battery hits in our first video. Yeah, it was that good, and I was missing out on 7.5% reload. And safe to say, I've been having a pretty good time playing Bremen these days with Luchins. Maybe an underrated perk of Bremen compared to Hindenburg, let's say, is Bremen's a premium. It allows you to swap Luchins on completely for free. You don't have to commit Luchins to your Hindenburg in order to gain this buff. You can have it on some other ship and just swap them over completely for free. It's a massive benefit that premiums have over tech tree ships, and Bremen here certainly takes full advantage of the Luchins buff here. One of the easiest ships in the game to activate this main battery reload buff on. 16 guns with an insane like 5-second reload or sub 5-second reload at times, decent range and accuracy, although our shell velocity could leave a little bit to be desired. It's pretty simple to activate it. Here, we're 3 minutes into this battle right now, and we're pretty close to already activating his buff. I am absolutely loving Bremen. I've had a ton of people ask me already about which ship do I prefer, Bremen or Hawaii. That's the decision. If you have to choose one, well, Bremen is way more consistent than Hawaii. But Hawaii, well, actually, there's our buff. It's less than 4 minutes into the battle. That's our buff already. Hawaii is more unique, okay? And if you have to choose one, typically I go with the more unique ship, okay? If I only have one to pick, Bremen, you get a similar playstyle with mines at tier 8, although the tier 10 version is a lot better at its tier. And of course, we have Hindenburg to play this role too. A lot of cruisers play this longer range farming role with solid AP into broadsides, somewhat trolley armor as well. Not a lot of utility here, no radars, anything like that. This playstyle we can find in other ships. I think it's very interesting to compare Bremen to Hindenburg, especially. In fact, I'd love to play some more Hindenburg just to make a dedicated video on it to see. But I have a suspicion that against the problem ships in the game, Hindenburg is better. Think about the number of ships that have 50 millimeters of armor plating, these problem battleships, like Libertad, for example, pushing in. Bremen doesn't pen that. You have to hit a very small superstructure or find broadsides like we're about to show on this Massachusetts. The AP DPM here is legitimately insane, way better than Hindenburg. But to burn down these problematic ships, things like Petro, for example, as well, bow in on an islands, a lot of these ships that are difficult to deal with in the game, they have over 38 millimeters of armor. They have 40 millimeters, 50 millimeters, and Hindenburg is going to full pen that, where Bremen is not. So I'm not much of a card game player, but I've heard a few terms, and let me know if I'm using this correctly, but Bremen feels a bit like a win more card. Does that make sense? Am I using that right? I hope so. Basically, if we're already going to do incredibly well against the ships we're fighting in Hindenburg, so we're going to farm down Montanas, we're going to farm down Conquerors, Republics, things like this, Bremen is going to do it way quicker, okay? But we're already pretty comfortable in those engagements, right? Maybe it's better to have a ship that is going to perform well and do much more damage to the problematic matchups, not the ones that are relatively easy to deal with already, okay? That is a thought, and I think that is probably correct. However, sometimes it's really fun to just win more, you know what I'm saying? It's just fun to have such ridiculous DPM, to run into poor tier 8s and 9 battleships and farm them down incredibly quickly. Sometimes that's just really fun, okay? And that's why I think Bremen is still an incredible pick. I've been having an absolute blast with this ship. Farming, finding AP broadsides. Our last game I'm going to show you here. I've got 3 really good ones here to show you. It's actually going to be over 300k. And I don't get a Witherer. In fact, I barely get 30k fire damage in a 300,000 damage game. The AP here is monstrous, and I've been having so much fun trying to find opportunities to push in, find broadsides, flanking maneuvers with this ship, and having a blast with this armor piercing. It really is absolutely amazing. The armor's been pretty trolly as well. Although I must say that Hindenburg does have a little bit better tankiness compared to Bremen. It does have better firing angles, especially kited, as well as just having 4 heals base. Bremen only gets 3 heals base, so much easier to take something like Survivability Expert instead of Superintendent on Hindenburg if you don't have the points, where here, you definitely do need a superintendent. This match, well, we're another 3 minutes into the battle, and we're coming up on our Lütjens buff yet again. It's by far the easiest buff to proc, outside of maybe the Kuznetsov buff when you're on low HP to get the damage control and the heal going. But this one is pretty impactful to gain early on. Zeton has damage controlled, and we're just instantly getting fires already. And there it is. That is 3.5 minutes into the battle, already getting us our 7.5% reload, on top of arms race buffs. Yes, Bremen can get absolutely filthy in arms race. A lot of ships can, but some of these high DPM ships are absolutely hilarious when you get full reload buffs going. You get destroyer level reload on cruiser guns, 16 guns here. And I'm trying to find the Lenin shot here. I'm very greedy for that broadside. But what about Bremen versus Hawaii in a fight, okay? Not just about which one should you pick up, which one should you play. What about battling each other? Bremen sweeps pretty easily, okay? Hawaii's pretty fun. Hawaii's very interesting. Hawaii's very unique, but that ship's got a giant superstructure, okay? And not enough armor to shatter our HE at all. So if he goes broadside, we're getting like 7 to 10k chunks in every 3 to 4 seconds into his broadside. And if he angles into us, well, our HE is full penning. His is, look at that AP damage. The AP is so satisfying, guys. I'm loving it. Unfortunately, he's actually not lit right now. Otherwise, we would have finished him off already. A couple cheeky torp hits as well into the Aki that was crossing the map there too. Don't sleep on these torps with Bremen. I think that is a really fun element of this ship too. Really slow torps that hit for quite a bit of damage and have really good range. They're great for zoning out areas of the map. They're great for anybody trying to rush you. I found them very, very useful. Much more fun than Hindenburg. Although they are slower, so in those very close range scenarios, Hindenburg torps probably are a little bit better. But you don't get those long range hits on those battleships. Ridiculous game there, already getting some monstrous damage into those broadsides. And continuing a little more with the comparison to Hawaii, as I think that's what a lot of people want to know about too, is Hawaii, that lack of pen, okay? Compared to Bremen, fighting a Bremen, yeah, it's going to be difficult, right? But I think that's what it comes down to with Hawaii, is it's more situational, right? That's where that idea of Bremen is just so consistent. If you love mines, if you want Hindenburg with less pen but way more DPM, I think you're going to absolutely enjoy Bremen, okay? Don't feel bad about getting Bremen and me saying that Hawaii is more unique and you should go for the more unique ship. I wouldn't feel bad at all about picking Bremen. That's why it's so difficult, and I think that's why so many of you are wondering. There we go, 5 minutes. A little slow this time. I'm sorry, 5 minutes to get our Lutjens buff. Took too long. This ship's crazy, man. Don't feel bad. That's why it's so hard, right? We have two incredible new cruisers. Both are really fun. Both have insane DPM. Both have really good situational value in Hawaii's crazy F key, as well as Bremen's wild AP and really, really good torpedoes as well. They both can do some farming over islands, HE spamming, but I do think they're better played in very specific scenarios. And they're both quite interesting to play, in my opinion. I like them both a lot. And that's why it's hard for me to really say which one you should get, right? It's all about your personal preference. What playstyle is more interesting to you? Are destroyer guns and their lack of pen a problem, right? That can be an issue if you're not used to playing things like Colbert, Smolensk, Jinan, things like this, where you're not used to finding those superstructures, getting those broadsides for the AP to start working. If you're used to being able to pen battleship armor or certainly cruiser armor, that's a key downside, is not being able to pen 30 millimeters with your HE. That's going to feel pretty bad going to Hawaii if you're used to something like a Worcester, for example. It's not going to feel very good, where Bremen slots in with your already well-established cruiser playstyle, just with more DPM, much more DPM, but with lacking a little bit of that pen into some of the more problematic ships, I guess we could say. Another random torp hit. I love throwing these torps out, and we managed to catch the Lepanto. Unfortunately, they weren't quick enough to catch him across that gap, but still, that extra range. Our torps would not have had the range to actually hit him if we were playing the Hindenburg. And as for positioning and overall comfort versus Hindenburg, I find it actually quite interesting. It's got worse shell velocity, right? Which is normally a bad thing, but it lets us lob a lot more island cover, right? It's a bit more feeling like Des Moines level. Maybe not quite that bad, maybe not quite that ability to lob islands. But in this case, Shikushima is 15 kilometers away over a pretty large island, and we're still going to be able to lob over this. Hindenburg would not be able to do this. Now, that's a big downside when it's open water, and we'll see that in a little bit when we're trying to deal with this rune that will be kiting at like 18 or 19 kilometers. I'm going to struggle to hit anything ever. It's hard, okay? But in some cases, worse shell velocity can be a massive benefit. Positioning Bremen, I think you want to play more islands than open water. Open water can work, certainly, and some maps are just going to be forced to do it. But a lot of islands are arcable with this one. Certainly, if you've played the new map, you've probably felt it, that they designed that new map and these two new cruisers, Bremen and Hawaii, basically made perfectly for each other, given the number of islands that are there that are easily arcable over them by Bremen and Hawaii. But I really think this is an interesting difference compared to Hindenburg. It might be slight, it might be small difference, but I did notice it, that at these 10 to 15 kilometer ranges, there were plenty more opportunities for me to stay in a more safe position relative to what I could play with Hindenburg and still fire my guns over some of these islands, which I really enjoyed. I like that a lot. I've been playing some Des Moines in that line recently, and I've been really having a good time trying to use islands to push up, right? We talk about this with brawling battleships a lot, but any ship, if you're trying to play aggressive, you need to be cutting sight lines. You need to be isolating fights. You need to position so that you're not caught in crossfires. And islands are the best way to do that. It also keeps you undetected, right? Farming damage, aiming well, not being shot at yourself, not having to worry about dodging. It helps a lot, right? It makes your life a lot easier. So playing around the islands is also quite nice. But I do really enjoy this ability to arc over a lot more of these islands. Playing more bow in or stern in as well. Having such high DPM, yeah, you're missing out on a lot by only firing your front or rear guns, but especially with the armor piercing. Some of the salvos we've had have had 7 to 10k salvos just out of the armor piercing front guns. Now that's a very unsaturated target, right? Once they start saturating, we're not getting that damage, but it's still pretty incredible the amount of damage you gain even just from using your front guns. Allows you to not greed quite so much for those rear guns all the time. Although, let's be honest, I tend to greed a lot for them. Hawaii goes down, and I think it's also worth noting that it's just a smaller ship to deal with compared to Hawaii. Hawaii is kind of a brick, right? I've been playing Hawaii quite a lot, but I've also been watching other players play, right? It's always a good idea to watch some really good players, and someone I was really interested in watching was John the Ruthless, because he's so incredible in Colbert. Light cruiser, you know, Hawaii's getting you close to Colbert DPM with a different hull, and I found it really comfortable to have the, you know, ability to just not explode instantly like Colbert might. But watching him, listening to him, and how his perspective of it is, you know, I might be summarizing too much here, but he really misses the maneuverability of Colbert. The amount of damage Hawaii takes for him is actually more than he takes in Colbert, because he's just that good at the game and able to dodge, right? Hawaii doesn't dodge damage, right? It's a big ship, easy to hit. That's nice because it gives you some free hits. It's a large HP pool to get through, so it allows you to make a few mistakes where otherwise you wouldn't be able to in, say, a Colbert. But it does take a lot more damage, where Bremen can dodge a lot more. It's a smaller ship, it's a smaller target to deal with, as well as generally being a little more comfortable open water, even though they both still want to be farming over islands. The comparison is interesting. The comparison is hard. If it sounds like I am struggling to tell you which one to get, or myself, I'm struggling to decide which one I like better, that's because I am. I don't know really which one I like better. I legitimately have been enjoying playing both of these ships. Every time I'm playing Hawaii, I am having a blast trying to make use of that F key. Really having a ridiculous amount of guns there is just so funny. But with Bremen, the high DPM, getting the AP going feels so good. The ship feels more consistent. It feels like any game I'm in, I have the potential of doing and having games like this one. It's kind of funny, actually. I was having games where, you know, I'd get a couple kills, I'd get 150 to 180k damage, and I'd start to think, man, I did a bad job this game. When in reality, that's an excellent game. That's just how consistent Bremen was. That's how much potential Bremen has. I felt like I wasn't doing enough when I was getting over 150k damage in a game. It's kind of funny to think about that, and just how good this ship can be. I am struggling, though, with this long-range leading. That is a big problem that I'm having in this one. But maybe that speaks to where the ship is just at its most powerful. Mid-range, right? Or closer ranges if you can manage to find broadsides and burst someone down before they trade you out, because you do only have 30 millimeters of armor. You are a cruiser after all. You can take a lot of damage. Please don't take range mod on these. If anything has shown me this spotter plane shooting and that, please don't take range mod. It is not required on this one. Also, shoot a lot of AP. If you haven't been shooting AP in this thing, check the damage numbers here. That is 30k out of fires. That's it. 90k out of the HE, but 190k from the AP. The AP is so good. You're missing out on a lot if you're not shooting majority or at least half AP in Bremen. Now, it's not going to work every battle to shoot that much AP, but try to look for opportunities. It is so much fun. It's really, really powerful. Now, as to that actual build that we were running with Luchins, I've kind of standardized it a little bit amongst cruisers. I seem to be gravitating towards these 3 skills on basically all of my cruisers these days. Concealment, it's just comfortable to have full conceal build, okay? I was greeding for most of the year. I think 2025 could be the year of greed for PQ on commander skills in that regard. We ran a lot of lighthouse builds, okay? And it works out. But even running full conceal build, there is great value to be had in outnumbered and top grade, okay? You're not getting it activated all the time like you would with a lighthouse, but I value the comfort. And as far as the 3-pointers go, Adrenaline Rush is just too good to not take. And then with Bremen and a lot of ships that have 3 heals, a lot of cruisers that have 3 heals, we're taking Superintendent. But on Hindenburg, it has 4 base, and that allows me to maybe look at Survivability Expert. We are missing out on a lot of HP that way. And remember, your base HP is what your heals are based off of. So every one of these heals is actually a little weaker because we're not taking Survivability Expert. But I'm finding it fun to have outnumbered, so I'm willing to put up with that downside. As for the 1 and 2 pointers, I was trying things with Eye in the Sky and Spotter Plane mod, but now that I've played with it a little bit more, I don't like shooting at 20 kilometers with Bremen. It is hard to hit things. Maybe I'm just not good enough at it, but I would rather just reposition and find myself a little closer range, and I will do a lot better personally. I was running Gun Feeder. I know, it's so fast on the reload. We don't need Gun Feeder. We should be taking Grease the Gears. Even watching back that footage, there's so many times where I'm a few seconds away from getting my turrets turned, and then someone goes dark, or I'm not quite able to finish someone off. Yeah, a Grease the Gears is a better pick here, especially with the reload being so quick. You should be swapping to HE and the AP anyway with this one, but it's so fast that this doesn't make too much of a difference. I'd probably just go Demo Expert, to be honest with you, instead of Eye in the Sky. Because again, shooting at 20 kilometers is not very fun with these guns. They are very, very slow out to that distance. Here is the rest of my build, of course. Reload mod. Please, not range mod. Range mod spotter. Please don't let me find myself fighting against a range mod spotter plane Bremen, guys. Please. That would be so sad. Please run reload. It's so good. The DPM is where it's at mid-range. Conceal, of course. Prop mod, very, very nice here, allowing us to do some speed juking if we're playing around islands a little more than we would with Hindenburg. Prop mod is just really nice for that. Of course, aiming systems, and then I was running spotter just to gain that 130-second uptime, 114-second downtime. That's the build, right? If you're running Eye in the Sky, you want spotter plane mod, and that way you have more uptime than downtime with these spotter planes. Maybe a good option to keep it, honestly. I should mention that you do have to get a little lucky with the matchmaker to not just have ultra passive 20-kilometer sniping fest games these days, right? We all know how passive the meta is, so maybe just keeping that on the build might be a good idea anyway. If you're finding yourself in some of those passive games, sometimes you want that extra range. Maybe it's just a bow on reversing battleship in spawn that is really easy to hit at 20 kilometers still. And that could be situationally worth it. But man, Bremen is so much fun. Hawaii is so much fun. And I know in saying that, I'm not helping you decide. If you haven't decided already, you're sitting on the fence, you're unsure of what to get, I'm sorry, I really am. But Wargaming made 2 very interesting, very unique cruisers. It really depends on the day. Like, one day I will say I would rather get Hawaii because it's more unique and interesting playstyle. And the next day I'll say, man, I'd just rather get Bremen because having that Hindenburg playstyle, but just a win more version of it is really fun. It's just kind of addicting. I'm sorry to not be particularly helpful, but maybe comment down below what you think, and that can be useful to some people as well. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.